cómo pensar educarla, ajá, cómo educar a un hijo, y porque pues nosotros nunca, es la primera vez que íbamos a ser padres.
What I think parents should know about home visiting is that you can learn a lot of new things and tips and tricks, how to take care of the baby and what to do, and if you're, stuck in a routine and everything being monotonous, like they give you new resources and new tools how to handle parenthood.
It was nice to have them kind of guiding me. Even though I was not a first-time mom, I felt like a first-time mom.
It totally blew my mind over time. So much information that I had no idea about. She was straightforward when, teaching me this stuff and answered any of my questions. Just a really positive experience.
What I think that parents could benefit with the program is just having someone here for you, especially for first-time parents. It can be very isolating and it can be very lonely, and having the home visitor changes that, and it feels very good.
For me, having a home visitor is like having a second mom there.
A lot has changed. I'm definitely more knowledgeable taking care of her, and I know that anytime I need advice or help from somebody, I can just call her.
It's just that little positive nudge to, hey, I'm noticing something, let's find a way how to change it. And she's like, you know what, Amanda, let's pick you up, dust you off, and let's go over to, see about either getting your driver's license or seeing about, going to college, see if we can start something for you.
It's totally worth it. Like, even if you're on the fence at first, you don't feel like having a stranger coming in your house and teaching you about your little one, do it anyway. You get the help that you need. You get professional advice on things you may not know about your child. And the fact that the program has no fees or anything, it's all totally free, is fantastic.
Yo creo que si conozco a alguien que está próxima a ser mamá, lo primero que haría sería recomendarle el programa, porque te entrega mucho apoyo, mucha información y más que nada como apoyo emocional, una guía, te da una visión diferente de cómo es ser papá aquí, quizás en este país.
Sí, pues es un bonito programa, porque pues es buena persona la señora y los ha atendido muy bien.
Pensé que nada más iba a ser un programa de orientación quizás para los nuevos padres, pero creo que nos llevamos una linda sorpresa porque Gaby es una persona muy cercana a nosotros, es como parte de nuestra familia, siempre ha estado dispuesta a ayudarnos y a escucharnos con nuestras dudas sobre la paternidad, y en nuestro caso, que estamos solos en este país, ha sido como de mucha ayuda.
Es un gran apoyo para nuevos padres, y más aún si están en nuestra situación, que somos extranjeros, que nuestra familia y amigos, como dice Carla, están en otro país, lejos. Entonces sí, viene muy bien el programa para apoyarse tanto emocional y como anímicamente, y bueno, en varios aspectos del programa que nos ayuda a seguir adelante con esta nueva aventura.
Te ayuda como a ver los distintos recursos que tiene la comunidad para nuevos papás, entonces creo que es de gran ayuda.
No queda mucho que agregar, pero lo veo de la misma forma.
Que hemos aprendido algunas cosas aquí y pues los han ayudado, como este programa los ha ayudado para seguir creciendo a bebé, como con buenos consejos y así.
Sí, y creo que también ha sido muy importante el tema de apoyarnos con el libro y saber qué actividades hacer con Máximo de acuerdo a su edad, cómo estimularlo, cómo cuidarlo de los peligros de la casa, como cosas que uno como papá nuevo no conoce, claro.
Pues a mí me gustaría que lo siguiéramos visitando aquí en la biblioteca de Covelo. Está tranquilo y muy bonito aquí.
Cuando no nos podemos reunir, nos comunicamos por Zoom o una llamada telefónica o por texto.
Donde nos visite, porque ha sido nuestra casa, a veces nosotros vamos a Willits y puede ser en el parque. Gaby llega, hacemos un resumen de cómo ha ido nuestra semana o qué hemos hecho de nuevo, cómo va el trabajo. Luego hacemos las actividades del libro, vemos si podemos hacer un juguetito nuevo para Máximo, a veces ella lo evalúa, cómo está su sentido motriz, qué ha aprendido de nuevo, nuevas palabras, y jugamos un ratito y conversamos.
A mí personalmente también me ayudó mucho a obtener mi licencia a conducir, que era un objetivo que teníamos en cuanto a la familia,
sí,
para poder estar tranquilos, así que encuentro que ha sido fundamental el apoyo.
El objetivo del programa es que las familias estén bien, y que las familias estén bien significa niños felices, niños sanos, y eso en un futuro es adultos sanos y un mundo mejor. Entonces está bueno.
This is the General Government Committee. It's May 22nd, and I'm calling the meeting to order at 9 o'clock. Could you conduct the roll?
Supervisor Hashak?
Here.
Supervisor McGordy?
Here. Okay, and Sarah McBurney, could you please lead us in the pledge? All right, so we'll move on to item 2A, which is discussion and possible action, including providing recommendations to staff and a referral to the Board of Supervisors recommending approval of the Cannabis Department monthly update for April 2024. Turn this over to Sarah McBurney.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Sarah McBurney. I'm the Senior Program Manager with Mendocino County Cannabis Department, here to present our April monthly report. At the close of April, we had 173 applications left to review, with a total issued of 519 issued cannabis cultivation business licenses. For the month of April, the department issued a total of 57 applications. In that 57, it included 25 renewals, 25 initial issuance of Phase 1 and Phase 2 applications, 3 Phase 3 applications, 3 withdrawn applications, and 1 denied application. The denial was due to non-responsiveness, so I do want to note that the department is continuing to work through applications that may not have had any engagement from the department. So as we continue processing the 173 left, we'll continue to try to engage applicants that may be non-responsive and try to reach out to them. So encourage everyone out there that's listening to just keep an eye out for any correspondence from the department and any requests that are made to make sure that we are ensuring anyone that wants to remain in program can. For the month of April, we processed 1 modification and 8 reassignments. For the year to date, 2024, we have issued 168 applications and we have denied 124. And so that's January 2024 to present. For our total issuance, we've had 22 CCBLs issued with annual state licensure and 466 issued with provisional licenses at the state level. We've had 60 renewals issued year to date and we are currently showing 81 pending renewal applications. For the approximate square footage issued, currently we're looking at 5.5 million. I think, you know, like we've mentioned the last couple months, this is approximate square footage. So this would be if everyone were to cultivate the total number of square footage that they're issued for or under review for. So it is an approximation. Not everyone can cultivate if they have a 10,000 square foot license. Not everyone can get to that exact 10,000 square feet. Some may be growing under that. So this number is just an approximation. The under review square footage is approximately 1.7 million. Our four-leaf subcontractor has 82 under review applications and 43 renewal applications. Mendocino County planning staff show 91 under review applications with 38 renewals. The department has gone live with 5-year renewals. Applicants who are inquiring about their renewal tier and what year they will need to be renewed should check on our MCD website. We have that information listed by CCBL number. And also the department is happy to announce that Excella accounts have been updated with this information. So applicants that were issued post July 2023 will now see their new renewal year in their Excella accounts. And then applicants who are now being issued will be issued with either tier 1 through 5. So they may renew in 2026 or all the way up to 2029.
Sarah, can I interrupt you for a second?
Absolutely.
So with the applications and the interpretation of 10A17 and the density issue, have we gotten any applications using that new density understanding?
So the department has received our first application for this as of yesterday. We have not received a huge onpouring of new applications. We have had a lot of inquiries in regards to the procedure and how exactly it may work, but only one true application for that new procedure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And we will continue to track that as well. Okay, so with all of that being said, MCD is still showing on track. So the Gantt chart currently shows the department completing the review of backlog applications by the end of September 2024. So that is ahead of our December 31st deadline. And the ongoing workload would include phase 3 applications and renewals as well. Okay, so possible log jams the department could face as we approach that date would be applicants who are non-responsive. So again, just make sure that everyone is responding to the department outreach accordingly. Anyone that is going to be issued, one of the last steps that the department and 4-leaf take prior to issuance is reaching out to the applicant to have them sign compliance plans and possible affidavits. Per our county code, it is required that applicants sign that or it's grounds for denial as well. So just making sure that applicants, if they receive a DocuSign from the department, are reviewing the documents sent via DocuSign. If they have questions on it, please absolutely reach out. We're happy to walk anyone through those or just go ahead and review them and go ahead and sign if everything is appropriate. So this number of applicants has dropped in April, but it's still something that could potentially hold us up for issuance. And then the second logjam that we're continuing to monitor and talk about is our CDFW responses. So the department is happy to note a slight uptick in CDFW responses. We've been working with Angela Liedenberg, who's been great at receiving information from the department and being able to prioritize applications. So I think what was happening previously is CDFW was getting a ton of referrals and requests for comment and didn't know where to start. It just seemed like this onpouring of work for them and kind of needed guidance as to where to start. So Supervisor Hashak, with the outreach you made and ensuring that we are both in communication, CDFW and MCD were able to prioritize applications that are deemed less than significant, or not less than significant, excuse me, so then CDFW can provide comments on those. And the ones that the department can deem less than significant, we're able to move through with the policy in place after 30 days of no comment. So although we still have a small logjam of applications, I think it's fair to say that CDFW and MCD are both working collaboratively through that logjam and will continue to monitor as we approach our DCC deadline.
Well, and I appreciate CDFW too, allocating time specifically to deal with these. Seemed like that should help too.
Absolutely. And I think that we're seeing they had done some onboarding as well of new employees. And so I think we're starting to see that outreach trickle in from the new employees too, getting out in the field. So that's been helping as well. Okay, so our draft EIR was made available for public comment on May 3rd, 2024. The DCC has public comment open for 45 days, and it will close on June 17th. So interested applicants can find the draft EIR on our MCD website. There is a physical copy at our MCD counter in the PBS building on 860 North Bush Street. And additionally, the DCC has a virtual copy of the draft EIR as well. So EIR is available in 3 different spots for anyone that's interested. And additionally, along with the DIR, there is the instructions on how to provide comment to the DCC. As a reminder, the DCC is the lead agency for CEQA in Mendocino County, so any comments on that draft EIR should be sent to the DCC for that comment review.
Sarah, sorry. Going back to CDFW, and there was always, we worked for quite a while on this screening tool, right? So is there anything that needs to be, do you feel like that's working appropriately at this point, or does anything need to be done with that?
I think our screening tool is working appropriately at this point. It's been kind of a collaborative effort to get it to where it is. We had a lot of community collaboration. County Council's office was able to collaborate and as a part of that as well as our MCD planning staff. So I think that the tool is appropriate for what we need to identify if there's any sensitive receptors at a site and appropriately identify less than significant or deem not less than significant and have it available for comment. We are sharing our SSHR screening tool review results with the DCC and Ascent in hopes that when it comes to site-specific review, that screening tool can be used as a part of that site-specific review process for the EIR in preparation for everyone transitioning to annual license. So I think that we've received good feedback from the DCC and Ascent on the screening tools that we've shared thus far as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then again, applicants that have site-specific inquiries for their individual review process and how that's going or are inquiring about timelines, please reach out to licensing at cannabis.ca.gov. And as always, if someone is, not receiving a response or wants help escalating that, I'm happy to do so as well. So you can forward, your outreaches over to either MCDPOD at mendocinocounty.gov or Cannabis program at mendocinocounty.gov, and we can help escalate for applicants as well if they're not receiving responses. I think overall the DCC has been responsive to those requests, and we've only had a few folks reach out that needed assistance. And really, I think what we're looking for was prior to the draft EIR launching is timelines, which is hard, I think, at this point. We're all kind of operating under the same generic timeline, which is on track, and now the DEIR is here, so that'll be helpful as well. Okay, so moving into LEAP updates, so our local equity entrepreneurial program. So our total award amount for round 5 was $1.8 million. For our last general government committee conversation, we were able to issue a survey seeking community input on the best way to utilize the funding available for round 5. As promised, that survey was ran for only a short period of time due to timing, but I'm happy to say that even though it just ran from 4/26 to 5/3, so a little bit over a week, we had a total of 77 responses. So I think that it was a worthwhile investment to run that survey and have that community input sought. And basically, with the responses of that survey, participants voted in favor of 70% of the available funding being utilized towards $50,000 direct grants and 30% of the available funding being utilized for fee relief up to $10,000 per applicant. We did deep dive into survey results in They're published on our website for anyone that wants to see more specifics and exact outcomes in terms of which favor. We have different charts available on our website as well that will show all of the responses. With these results, and given that there's $50,000 direct grants, the department will be able to issue about 18 and a partial direct grant if everyone takes the full $50,000 in queue. So again, that queue is an inherited queue. It's made up of 276 applicants that have been in line since the initial direct grant application period was ran with the department. And so the plan for the department is just to start off at number 1 and work our way through until the funding is expended in that direct grant category.
Well, I really want to thank you for doing that survey. It seems like we got a result that seems fair from my point of view. It's like, what would we have done? You know, we could have picked numbers out of the hat from up here, but having the people kind of vote on it and come up with that kind of fair distribution seems like a real good way of running government.
I agree. I think that with our LEAP program, you know, there was really not a solid way to move forward and make everyone happy. Obviously, you know, ultimately we want to fund everyone. We want to make everyone have these direct grants available to them, especially folks that have been in queue for multiple years. But the funding just didn't give us that opportunity. So I think that soliciting the community input, and obviously there's folks that didn't vote this way, so, you know, they didn't necessarily get their way, but I think it's really important. I'm really grateful for the folks that did participate, and I definitely agree. I think this is the best way to move forward and not just make an executive decision and have that roll out. You know, the department will continue to seek additional funding opportunities, even if it's outside of the Go Biz LEAP program. We have different opportunities like our LJAGP grant, and we'll continue to, you know, I think at one GGC, someone had mentioned if we were open to looking at funding opportunities and if there's any grants available, and we're happy to look into them as well.
Yeah, it just seems like, you know, with the funding that we have, you know, no one's going to be really happy. And so it's just like, how do you distribute
Absolutely.
the pain?
And then, you know, kind of, this is really a May update, but we are accepting fee relief applications for LEAP currently as well. So I think the nice thing with the fee relief applications is that there wasn't a direct grant queue already established. It was first come, first serve. So we opened fee relief. We had 931,000 available for direct grants, which gives us 18.5-ish. And then we have 399,000 available for fee relief. And so we opened fee relief applications last Monday. And so, 2 Mondays ago. And we have already spent down, we only have $150,000 left in funding for the LEAP fee relief. So I think it shows the demand is high. Our applicants were really good at watching for that fee relief window opening and ensuring that they got their applications in on time. There's only a few applicants that were able to utilize the full $10,000. Again, you have to apply for fee relief in terms of one invoice, one application, so applicants can't just apply for $10,000 and have that funding given to them. They would apply with, for example, a treasurer tax collector annual true-up, and then what happens is the department accepts that. We create a munis journal entry and we pay the TTC directly. That funding doesn't go to our applicants, it gets dispersed directly to the departments that are being applied for fee relief. So fee relief can be used for environmental health fees, agricultural department scale fees, treasurer tax collector, planning and building, and then also our Mendocino Cannabis department. You can, if you're a certified equity applicant, you can apply for fees too to allow your permitting process to move forward. So I think overall we've had really great responses from that. The department has been extremely busy in getting that data organized. And to confirm, a lot of the fears we're getting is the true-ups have a due date of May 31st, 2024. We did speak with the treasurer tax collector about extending that due date. At this point, I don't know that that's necessary. We were able to open the fee relief window early enough that we got applications prior to that deadline. We're still accepting applications. So if there's anyone out there wondering, should I pay this before the due date or should I apply, please apply. And with that being said, we have an internal sheet that we communicate with the treasurer tax collector. So all of those journal entries will not be completed by May 31st. However, all of those applications will be communicated to the TTC so they stop accruing any penalties or interest, or won't accrue any penalties and interest. They'll be considered on time. And then the department will have all of our journal entries processed for this fiscal year. So we're going to create a lot of work.
Yeah, Supervisor.
Sarah, so how much money is involved here?
If I may, through the chair?
Sure.
In terms of total fee relief or?
Well, that Mendocino County will likely end up with?
It'll be the full $399,000. So it's $399,044 in fee relief. And additionally, in addition to that $399,000, there was $115,586.14 of fee relief applications that were received and accepted by the department last fiscal year, last round of GoBiz funding, but were never processed. So the department early on recognized and identified that $115,000 and set aside the first chunk of the 1.4 that was available for direct grants and fee relief to that. So in addition to the $399,000, we'll have another $115,000. So it's a little bit over $500,000 that will come to the county.
So this can help close the gap financially for the department potentially, depending upon how the funds are allocated?
It could. I think it's important to note it's all not coming to the cannabis department. So
Right.
it's going, a lot of it, I would say 75% of our applications go towards taxes, treasurer tax collector. And any funding that's received by the treasurer tax collector for cannabis specifically goes into general fund.
But it's still important because we're looking for general fund dollars to take care of deficits. So this is good news.
I agree. I think it's good and it helps our applicants as well.
And I just wanted to thank you for creating this well-oiled machine, because it certainly seems like we're processing these applications in a very efficient, timely way, and that to be able to get this done before May 31st is really an incredible lift, just like we've seen before in the past when you've done these incredible lifts. And so really thank you for that. And just so with the 150,000 left, that it's first come, first serve. So that will fund about between 15 and maybe 30 people. So it's important to get your application in right.
Yeah, absolutely. Any applications, getting those is going to be extremely important. And like I said, I think there's only 2 total that have utilized fee relief for the total of $10,000. So the applications can range. We've seen amounts for fee relief range from $48 up to $5,000. So it really is depending, and a lot of journal entries are going to come from this. So, I appreciate the kudos. I think it's important to recognize that there's going to be a lot of other departments working to make this well-oiled machine run as well. So our auditor office is going to have a lot to do on the back end in terms of getting all these journal entries processed. And really just want to thank the treasurer tax collector for the collaboration we've had going into this fiscal year. Everything from tax appeals to these journal entries, we've really streamlined that process with them. We're in SharePoint together, which allows for the opportunity that we saw last year where we approved $115,000 of fee relief that was never processed. That was due to emailing a spreadsheet back and forth and just a really loss of communication. This way, everyone's working out of SharePoint. Live edits are being made. We can see each other working. We know exactly what's happening. And so really thankful for that collaboration as well. And again, these journal entries, I wish I was that good. There's no way that they're all going to be processed by May 31st, but the recognition that they're received by the treasurer tax collector and the ability for the department to process those post the May 31st deadline is huge. Our goal is to get that done a week or so after that May 31st deadline in terms of getting the journal entries processed, but there is a lot of them, so we'll see what we can do. Um,
Supervisor Morty.
Sarah, yeah, I want to echo what Supervisor Hasjack said about what a well-oiled machine compared to what we used to have. And I'm kind of looking at the endpoint, and how many, based on what's in the queue, how many applications do we think, or how many licenses will eventually be in place?
so as of right now, if I may through the chair, we have 692 applications in program. That number has changed quite a bit. So a year ago, we had about 800 applications in program. I really think that we saw that number shift at the start of this year when we really took on these phase 1 and 2 applications that haven't been engaged by the department in multiple years. That's when we saw that huge denial project go out. I think we denied 71 applications total, and we had a lot more withdrawal on top of that number. What I think is important to note is we're getting to a really cool pivot point in the program where everyone in program is playing ball. They are in the regulated legal cannabis cultivation market. They are abiding by 10A17. They're abiding by DCC, the regulations set out to get their state license. They're doing everything that the EIR is requesting, and I think that the department is able to respond much quicker to those actions that our applicants are taking. And my hope is, in the past, there was kind of this nuance where applicants that we said like, hey, we're doing Appendix Gs, apply for the Appendix Gs. The applicants that did that first lost in the end. The Appendix Gs were, we stopped doing that. DCC took over as lead agency. So I think that what we're seeing now is a much more collaborative, well-working relationship with our applicants. And my hope is through phase 3 applications and these 5-year renewals, we'll continue to bring and draw folks into the regulated market. I think that it's important to note code enforcement has been a really great partner as well with us in terms of, responding to if there's anyone out there that's not in that regulated market and encouraging them to come into that regulated market. So right now it's that 692. And the hope is that we will continue to see that number grow. I don't think cannabis isn't going away. It's in Mendocino County. We want people to participate in the regulated market. We want them to be compliant. We want the environment to be sustainable around this. And so I think that we're getting to this point where it's happening, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, so I did a quick calculation based on the square footage that are, licensed. It's not actually grown potentially, but there's 127 acres of cannabis in Mendocino County. And more importantly, there's a group of identifiable growers who are legal. And it's a good size group. I mean, compared to grape growers are around 380, 390. This is about double the size. But, it's shaping up to be real and definable. And I'm thinking, again, for our crop report, I'd be very happy just to have the number of growers, the total area that's licensed, and what the taxes are paid to the county. To me, would make a really good addition to our crop report, so that we really have a sense of the size of the industry, because up to now we really haven't been able to do that. So, but anyway, thank you for the very clear information. This is really a pleasure to be able to see this and know exactly what's going on and where our progress is and getting people through the process and legal and, the contributions that potentially the cannabis industry is making. And we know that through economic development, there's a ripple effect. For about every $1 that's spent in income, about $5 of general economic activity take place. So it's still important to us, obviously, as one of our drivers of our Mendocino economy. Thank you.
Well, I think you're right, Supervisor, is that, we've grappled with this whole issue of the gray area with the 10A17. And I think that we're getting to a point now where it's pretty clear if you're in the program or you're not, and that if you're in the program, hopefully those people are, following the rules and everything, and if they're not, then we're trying to get them either into the program or face the consequences, I guess.
Totally. And I think, in conversations even with MCD staff, it's important to note really cannabis as a department here at the county is in its infancy. We've been here since 2017. The county's been around since 1850. So when we look at the regulations of this market, we look at 10A17 and we look at our day-to-day processes, I really want to thank our applicants for being able to grow with us and being adaptable and providing feedback. I think it was Supervisor Mahorn when she was on the General Government Committee, she was talking about how 10A17 isn't done, right? We're going to continue to have ordinance amendments. We're going to continue to adapt as needed. But I think that we can be extremely proud of where we've come in such a short time. When you really look at the historical perspective of the department only being 7 years old. I think that as we get these applicants that come aboard and are really wanting to understand and do right and are receiving engagement from the department and receiving direction and the ability to be successful in the regulated market, I think that's just as important as well.
Well, I think that you've created a team over there too that's really working well.
Thank you. We are a small but mighty team, and everyone has different strengths that they bring aboard to the table. So I think that we balance each other all really well, and I'm very proud of the team that we have. Okay, so with LEAP, a few other things real quick. So again, fee relief is open. Please send in any applications. The department issued a request for proposal 01524, which is our update to the county equity assessment. So when we did our equity assessment back in 2020, Humboldt State performed that equity assessment for it, and as part of the findings of that survey they did for us, they recommended an update to the equity assessment every few years. So this request for a proposal really came from that finding. And I think the other thing that the update to our county equity assessment will show is kind of exactly what we've just been talking about. How has the equity program in Mendocino County changed since 2020? What opportunities are there still to tackle? If there's any wins, we can note those as well, and just really give us a good equity assessment to kind of move forward on as well. We were able to solicit 3 responses from that, and the RFP was scheduled for selection and notification on May 6th of this year. So our procured vendor from that, which is a May update, but just to announce it, is MGT Consulting, and the department will provide more information on our website and at our next GGC. Okay. And then going into LJAG, which is our other direct grant program that we have currently running. So Local Jurisdiction Assistance Grant Program. This is made available by the Department of Cannabis Control, the DCC. We have $4.8 million available to distribute to qualified applicants who have or had their provisional license. It is a reimbursement-based grant. So fee or direct grants had to reimbursement expenses were from January 1st, 2022 to February 29th, 2024. And we have received 242 applications from that direct grant opening, which occurred on March 1st. And we have currently, when you take those 242, you remove duplicates, you remove folks that didn't have their provisional license, we have 225 applications to go. So out of the $4.8 million, there's still $600,000 in funding as of April available to be applied for. So we encourage anyone that had a provisional license and transition to annual or has a current provisional license to apply for that direct grant funding. I think a lot of applicants spoke to the hard, they had a hard time navigating between the dates. So a lot of our CEQA work was maybe perhaps done by our applicants before January 1st of 2022. I definitely encourage anyone that's struggling to identify available and appropriate reimbursement requests to contact the department. We're happy to walk through, potential reimbursement requests that are available and could work within the grant agreement and be reimbursed. So definitely encourage everyone to apply. Out of the applications that we have processed, we currently, as of April, had 47 routing and cobblestone. 28 of those were processed fully, and 12 checks were sent out for AP batches in the month of April. So that number obviously is continuing to grow. I do want to note that, again, going back to our small but mighty team, we're handling a lot on the administrative side. So we have LJAGP direct grants, LEAP fee relief requests, and then in addition, our LEAP direct grants. So just want to touch on the timing and the priorities of that from a department standpoint. So as of this last 2 weeks, our LEAP fee relief requests are our number one priority. So getting those processed is going to be our number one priority. That will be wrapped up by the latest June 30th. And then obviously if there's more funding that trickles in the next fiscal year, like say the 150 that's available isn't spent, we could accept fee relief applications prior to that as well. But we would like to get all of our general fund and department contributions done within this fiscal year. So that's the goal. And that's why we really want to encourage people to apply. I don't foresee us carrying funds into next fiscal year, but there's a chance we could, and we would be willing to accept applications for that. So LEAP fee relief requests is our number one priority. Number two is going to be wrapping up the LJAGP direct grants. So we currently have a lot in progress with that program. So we'll be continuing to see that progress close. And then after LJAG is wrapped up, we will move into the LEAP direct grants. What I want to note with the LEAP program is the funding that was awarded for round 5 is awarded in increments. So we did not get the full 1.8 up to in our bank account all at one time. We are getting 25% increments, and then we have to show expenditure of that 25%, and then we'll get the next 25%. The last 25% is reimbursement based only. So I think given the fact that the incremental funding is coming into us and the multiple competing priorities, you know, I want to point out that LEAP direct grants will happen, but happen probably a little bit later. And so just want to make applicants aware of our priorities.
So with the LJAG direct grants, what's the limit on that?
$25,000 per applicant.
Okay.
And then with that, that concludes the item 2A, our April monthly report.
So just doing quick math on that. With the direct grants, if there's 4.8 million available and it's 25,000, that's 40 grants per million. So that's like 190. That?
Yes, 192.
And so we have 225 applications at this point.
Yeah, and the reason why there's a gap in that is not everyone applied for the full 25,000. So I think one of the checks that was just written was for, I think, right around 4,000. So the range is high. It is anywhere from, you know, a couple grand all the way up to that full amount of 25,000.
Okay.
That's all I got for April.
That's it?
Yep.
All right. Any questions, Supervisor? All right, then we'll open it up to public comment.
Hello, I'm Stephen Amato, President of the PA. I'd like to thank the Cannabis Department for conducting that survey in such a timely fashion. I think that was an incredible move done by the government and how it worked so efficiently, quickly, and we're able to get these things before the tax true-up is due, weeks in advance. So thank you very much for that. Getting the public input was beautiful. It's very rare that we see these things happen in such a quick fashion and efficiently. Yeah, it's a shame that there's going to be winners and losers in it, but I think we've all come to a really good process and gave fair input from everybody, and it's the best that we can do with what we're given in the circumstance. As far as now, with the main thing happening here in the county area on the amendments and the cannabis front is obviously the draft EIR that's been released. So here at the MCA, we're offering an informational session that's being conducted by Hannah Nelson, our esteemed advisor here for the MCA, and through Wind, Coastal, and Planning. We'll be conducting that meeting at that informational session at 1:30 on Friday. Sorry for the short notice, but we've been hitting it hard ever since that draft EIR was released, so things are on a time crunch. And if you'd like to attend the meeting, please contact us at info@mendocannabis.com. I'll definitely contact you back and give you the invitation that you can utilize and get into that and participate and get that information. It's going to be really helpful teaching our members of the community some of the ins and outs of CEQA, at least specifically where it pertains to this draft EIR. Because the main priority here is to make sure all our provisionals turn to state annual licenses at a time given by the government. So we'll be doing that and some other activities following up after that, but just wanted to make sure the community was aware of that and extend that invitation out. A lot of folks recently, not a lot, but some folks have been hitting us up here about phase 3 applications and curious about what that average timeline is for that process. I understand every application is unique, has its own ins and outs. And I would imagine as time goes on, it sounds like, you're starting to get to the finish line with the LJ grant, the LEAP grant, and all that the department will have a lot more time to start focusing on. It's going to become their everyday work as these years go on. You're getting past the inherited circumstances, it seems. So I was just curious if you get any feedback on that. There's people in the community that are asking me that, just wondering what that average process time has been. And besides that, just like to thank everybody. Like I said, everybody came together. We really pulled through, and we got something done and accomplished. Thank you.
Good. Ms. McBurney?
Yes, if I may, through the chair. So to clarify, in terms of the grant work, so LEAP, LJAG, all these direct grants and fee relief applications, that's being handled and is a pretty heavy lift for our admin team, which is separate from our planning team. So our planning team is continuing to focus on all application review, whether that's phase 3, renews, modifications, reassignments, et cetera. Anything that falls under their wheelhouse. So the good news is phase 3 applications are being processed as a part of our monthly issuance. So, our huge goal is to get everyone as ready as possible for the transition to annual license, with a special emphasis on our phase 1 and phase 2 applicants with provisional licenses to ensure that they are able to transition quickly. As of right now, with our phase 3 applications, there's just the application at the state level for their annual licensure. So as a reminder to everyone, with a phase 3 application, you cannot, in any application and program, you cannot cultivate cannabis, commercial cannabis without a DCC license. So whether that's a provisional or annual. So the department absolutely is getting those processed. They do fall within that 25-hour review timeline from our time studies, but we're able to turn those around pretty quickly. So we have a huge backlog of the phase 1 and 2 applications. Phase 3, they're a lot smaller of what's in our bucket. So when you look at our April issuance numbers, we had 25 phase 1 and phase 2 applications issued and 3 phase 3 applications issued. So I think from a bird's eye view, it looks like that's not really fair, but I think when you look at the total number of licenses that we're balancing and trying to get through this pipeline, it's very respective to what we show in program. So phase 1 and phase 2 makes up the majority of those applications that are in program. So that's why there's more of those. That's why there's the 25%. Phase 3, there's a much smaller amount and a continued workload amount, but we're still getting those processed just in the same time. But as a reminder, you cannot cultivate without your DCC license, so just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. And I think that answers all the questions.
Okay, very good. Any other public expression? All right, very good. So we'll move on to item 2. Oh, do we need to move to accept the report?
So move.
Acceptance of the report?
Yeah, I move to accept the report.
Okay, I'll second that.
Chair, just for clarification, Charlotte Scott, Assistant County Counsel, I would recommend following the recommended action, which is provide accept the informational report and provide referral to the Board of Supervisors recommending approval of the monthly update, the recommended language.
Okay.
So I will move acceptance of the report and forwarding it to the Board of Supervisors, their monthly update. Does that occur as a consent agenda item, or is it part of the CEO's report? Where does it go?
Through the chair, if I may, Charlotte Scott, Assistant County Counsel. I believe it is through the consent calendar, but I will clarify, if the department can clarify if I'm incorrect there.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, I move that.
And I'll second that.
Chair Haschak?
Yes.
Supervisor McCourty?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
All right, moving on to item 2B, discussion and possible action, including recommendation of approval to the Board of Supervisors of a draft agreement with Canna Business Services for up to $180,000 in direct technical assistance services from the effective date of the agreement through October 31st, 2025. And I'll just say that I was on the webinar that that's what we want to call it, the webinar with Canna Business Services on May 10th. And I thought that they were very professional and attentive to what the desires and needs of Mendocino County are, and I hope that continues. Pass it on to Bernie.
Thank you. Sarah McBurney, Senior Program Manager with Mendocino County Cannabis Department. And yes, what you see before you for item 2B is a contract, a proposed contract with Canna Business Services, a not to exceed $180,000 for direct technical assistance. So this funding is grant funded. It's coming out of our local equity entrepreneurial program, our LEAP program. And for the LEAP program guidelines, we cannot extend more than 10% of our total award amount on direct technical assistance, which is where that number comes from. So it's 10% of our total awarded grant amount. And it is for Canna Business Services to offer individual, group, and any other direct technical assistance that may be beneficial towards Mendocino County. I think that direct technical assistance historically has been something that has ran pretty unsuccessfully in the cannabis department, and the hope is with this procured vendor that we can really get the community needs input and successfully launch direct technical assistance. At one point with this scope of work, which has previously been published to agendas and minutes, there was concerns with the generacy of it, and it made folks perhaps concerned that Canna Business Services was too broad and they didn't have enough rural experience to be able to assist Mendocino County appropriately. So due to that feedback, and I think we probably would have done this anyways, but we did host a webinar on May 10th with Canna Business Services. So they showed up in full force. They brought a pretty large team. On average, it was about 40 folks that were live streamed on that webinar, and I had spoken to a couple applicants that watched it after the webinar concluded as well. So I think ultimately we had a pretty good turnout for that webinar, and applicants were able to engage with the Canna Business Services team. They were able to ask any specific questions they may have of the contractor. How is this going to work for me? What's your plan? What does this look like for Mendocino County residents where, you know, we may not have the best access to computers, or we're out, you know, cultivating and we're not able to sit in front of the computer for hours at a time. Can I access you on weekends? Can I access you after hours? And the answer to those questions are yes. So the scope of work presented before the public today is generic for a reason, and it's generic so we can maneuver appropriately within the grant agreement terms and still be consistent with the grant guidelines and appropriately able to spend this funding. But I can assure the public that we will do everything in our power, Mendocino County Cannabis Department and Canna Business Services, to ensure that we're getting a really specialized experience through direct technical assistance. This direct technical assistance would be available for certified equity applicants only. So I do want to make sure that everyone knows that we have an open equity window available on our website. And window perhaps is not the correct term because there's not at this point a closing point for that. It's just an open equity recruitment, if you will. So anyone that thinks they may be able to apply for equity and would like to participate in direct technical assistance that link is available on our website, and there it's just basic upload of any proof of criterion and then your business entity information. But we're hopeful that with this contract, direct technical assistance can be done right for the county, and we'll really see the ability for our cultivators to be successful in ongoing business expenses and be able to really kind of learn how to maneuver within the regulated market appropriately is kind of the long-term goals. What I do want to say about the webinar that we did host is that was done outside of contract. So Canna Business Services didn't receive any funding from the county for coming to that, which I think is huge and speaks to the engagement that their team has and their desire to be successful in our county. So, you know, with that, I'll conclude the presentation and open it up to any questions or comment. But I want to thank everyone for coming to that webinar, including yourself, Supervisor Hauschak, and we're really excited to get this program operational and successful.
And my understanding is that, you know, to figure out what types of services that they could provide, then they're going to do some surveys of the people in the equity grant to see what really is out there, what the needs are, and really focus in on those needs and provide those kind of webinars or individual consultations and approach in that manner. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. That's something that they were interested in, was gathering and soliciting feedback to seeing what is wanted by the public and being able to do and conduct that exact thing. So, you know, in my experience, they've been pretty darn receptive to maneuvering in whatever requests we've made from them. And so I think that the same would be for our applicants as well. You know, if there's a lot more demand for one-on-one assistance versus group settings, they'll absolutely pivot and do that. And the nice thing is they're willing to change mid-project, right? So if the surveys come back and everyone wants these group webinars and they want to participate and we're not seeing a lot of those, I think that it's absolutely appropriate and the contractor would re-engage and re-solicit feedback to kind of divert and make the program successful.
Supervisor McGordy.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just curious. Do you have a procedures manual for the departments, and is that available to the public online?
If I may, through the chair?
Yes.
We don't have one specifically for direct technical assistance. Right now, the SOP that could be modeled off of it would be based off of the scope of work. So once we receive approval, we could move forward with kind of what's here. You know, when we took on, really since my onboarding, not a lot of procedures were written down for the department, so we've come a long way from there. We do have several that are available online. Direct technical assistance is missing, but I think that we have a good scope of work here to craft one off of and be able to have one available for public consumption.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, again, if a motivated applicant had access to what everything takes, if they could work through the application on their own.
Yeah, I think that, so the application for LEAP equitability is really simple. It's a 5 multiple choice question, so you just select the one that adheres to you, and then it asks for basic information, so name, address, your business structure, what percentage of your ownership is, and then a file upload. So my hope is through ease, that's pretty easy. However, I'm also sympathetic to the fact that most of our folks are cultivators and not necessarily computer savvy. So although ease is our goal, sometimes we miss that. And it's not through intentions, but sometimes it's just difficult to navigate computers for some of our cultivators. So I hope they can, but I am sympathetic to the fact that there may be folks that have troubles with that. Additionally, even though we don't necessarily have a direct technical assistance SOP, we do have our LEAP program manual, which goes over the specific guidelines of what direct technical assistance is and how it helps our applicants, and that is available on our website. Once this is approved, that will be published right along with it. But we have a local equity entrepreneurial program tab, just a subpage on our website, and I encourage everyone who is wondering to check that out, and obviously open to feedback too. If folks are missing information they'd like to see, we're happy to take that into account and publish or not.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think this is really a great opportunity because, like you said, the technical assistance has been lacking in the past. I think we had to return some equity money, and because we didn't provide those services. So really, thank you for getting this launched, and look forward to providing that service to people. Anything else?
I don't believe so. Just to confirm on your comment that yes, the funding that has been sent back historically through rounds 1 through 3 of GoBiz funding has majority been through direct technical assistance. And so the hope is that, we've procured the correct vendor, we have solicited feedback, and we can appropriately engage and assist our applicants for that continued success. So, I think just with the progress we've seen in the department overall, we're hopeful to see that work through here too. So that's all for now.
Okay. Very good. We'll open it up to public comment.
Good morning. Chantal Simon-Pietri with Mainspring Consulting. Since I came, I thought I'd make a comment. Regarding the Canna Business Services contract and scope of work, I also participated in the webinar that they offered, and I had a little bit of like Debbie Downer going on where I was like, what are they really going to do? Can they really meet the needs of the local community or not? Is their professional expertise sufficient to meet the nuanced need of what's going on here, especially with the environmental issues? I have shifted a little bit to that. I think that was really strongly coming from my perspective as an environmental consultant that works in a specialty niche of cannabis environmental compliance and water rights and watershed management. So I felt at the end of the meeting that I felt some hope that they are going to offer a service to some people. It's not that they're going to meet everybody's need for technical assistance, but they are going to be able to offer something to some people, especially in the business development realm, which seemed to be mostly where the language that's in their more the exhibit, that's the attachment that more delineates the specifics of their scope of work, that seemed to be what it was reaching towards. Like, how do you make a business plan? What are your goals for your business? How do you get from here to there? I would like to see, this follows on the concept of a manual or a procedures document. As far as the management of them, I'd like to better understand how they're going to be managed and how we're going to confirm that they're accomplishing what they set out to do. And specifically, I think that a key role they offer is in their survey ability. Whoever engages their survey, their offerings, it's only going to be those that are equity eligible. So it takes our total pool of people that need support and narrows it down to just the equity folks. But among those, in their one-on-ones or their regular monthly offerings that they do, they're going to be constantly hearing what people need. And that is something that is not well received yet in an intake right now, besides people calling and saying, I need help with this and that. But I do think they could offer, they may hear that people need a range of 10 things, and they're only able to meet 2 of those 10 because they don't have professional environmental consulting staff or attorneys on their staff. But what they can help the county understand is what is the scope of need, that then we can seek other support to provide that. And I would like there to be a formalized mechanism for where that survey information is brought in and then presented to the board through the GGC, so we continue to make decisions of how to know what the needs are and meet them, rather than just know what they are, but recognize that Cannabis Business Services doesn't meet it. Thanks.
Ms. McBurney, is that something that we could possibly track?
If I may, through the chair, I think absolutely. Obviously, that plan has not yet been established, but I think, pretty quickly could be established to see what the surveyabilities are, and then also the formalized mechanism for reporting. I think that, for the comment we just heard, it's totally appropriate to bring that back to GGC and then before the board as a part of our just update in terms of direct technical assistance under our LEAP monthly report. So happy to continue to share any information we receive in that manner as well, and be open to feedback on it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anything online?
Seeing none.
Just a quick comment too. I agree with Chantal's point of, if we get grants, we need to know outcomes. What was the issue? What was the outcome? I think that's really important when we're taking public money and spending it, that we know that we actually did something and that there is a positive outcome for whatever group we're working with. So I support that as well.
All right. Well, Supervisor, we're looking for a motion to approve the recommended action.
I move recommended action.
I'll second that.
Supervisor McGorty?
Yes.
Chair Hashak?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
All right. All right, it's 9:58, so got through the cannabis items, 58 minutes. But I think, let's see, we have, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take the public expression right now because Supervisor McGorty wanted to make some comments that were kind of for the public expression part. And so I think that it'd be more appropriate to do it right now than wait. So, what? Okay. So we'll open up public expression item 3B.
Good morning. I'm Glenn McGorty, 1st District Supervisor. I wanted to share with the group a very alarming report that was recently presented at the North Coast Resource Partnership meeting that I attended with Supervisor Dirty in Weaverville. And it was about the illegal cannabis industry and the impact that they're having on Northern California. After watching this and seeing actual numbers and data that were gathered by a ad hoc committee of this organization, which is made up of county government members, tribal members, resource members, NGOs, and people working in the field of natural resources. Their ad hoc on cannabis presented a data that was not good. Essentially what we're seeing is that there's a devastation of public lands, waterways, and water resources going on at really large scale. Toxic materials are killing wildlife. We're seeing pesticides used illegally, but more alarmingly, pesticides that aren't even registered in the United States. So they showed us numerous pictures of dead animals who had been injured by these pesticides, things imported from Mexico, and even more strangely from China. So this is spread across our 5-county area of the North Coast Resource Partnership, which consists of Sonoma, Mendocino, Lake, Del Norte, Humboldt, Siskiyou, and Trinity counties. The regulatory industries involved in this, including police agencies, are just overwhelmed. They can't even begin to take this on. And I think what's really also alarming is just the terrible conditions for labor that are working in it. So this is really an ecological catastrophe that's occurring here on the North Coast. And I just want people to be aware, because I know our growers who are legal are doing a good job, but there's other people out there that are still bad actors. Bottom line, this is also very dangerous to consumers to be consuming cannabis products that have been sprayed with illegal pesticides and under no control. You know, I think that people going through the process of being legal here in Mendocino County really need to feature that and market it as part of the program. You know, what I call a Mendocino Cleano program that would be basically saying we're producing cannabis in accordance with legal pesticides, you know, concerns for labor, concerns for the environment, and really start to make a distinction between the two products. So that's what I have to share with you today, and we're going to hear more. There will be a formal report issued by the North Coast Resource Partnership on this, and I'm very, very alarmed over what's going on and continues to go on in the illegal sector. Thank you.
Just one question for you. So did they talk about public lands, or are these going on in private lands for the most? Both.
Yeah, so the big problem in public lands continues to be a big issue for Trinity County in particular. And Siskiyou County has a problem with private lands with, you know, old subdivisions that were kind of map subdivisions that really have no resources, and you know, they're trucking water in. And there's also, you know, a lot of immigrant labor involved in this, particularly Asian, and this is where the Chinese pesticides are being used, and it's just, again, no control over what's happening, and the local resources are overwhelmed. We see a certain amount of that. I've talked to Sheriff Kendall here, and Mendocino County, his comment to me was that there's fewer illegal grows, but they're bigger. They've consolidated, so he still continues this to be a problem. He's trying to work with the limited resources that he has on kind of a team approach to take on some of these larger grows, but with other counties, but it's very difficult to do.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other public expression?
Hello, Steve Amato from the president of the MCA. Yeah, that is a reality of what is going on in the state of California, and I'm sure elsewhere, but more so here in the northern region of our state. And that's why it's very important that we do have a robust legal framework that provides an avenue for success for people doing it correctly, abiding by the laws and guidelines that are set forth to make sure there is safe working conditions, safe environmental safeguards being utilized, and I mean and that's where we require that distinction to be made. That there's people who are going above and beyond, doing things that are practiced better than even in some other agricultural department, areas of our county that don't have some of these strict guidelines that are placed upon cannabis, because it does need to stop, and if our market here collapses and our framework collapses here in the Mendocino County, we're going to see more of that. And that's exactly what we don't want. That's why it is worth the investment on the county standpoint, worth the stakeholder group's energy and time to go forward and try to make sure that this has a great success. Here at the MCA, we are starting to launch a campaign to try to, we've been very involved in the policy, as I think everyone here knows, as the last few years, that we're trying to really start engaging in acts being more of a trade association, in which where we are going to be doing, and we had just looked at a deck that one of our board members put together yesterday for a real good marketing plan, do real outreach throughout the whole state. Working with some of our other regions also is something that we're looking to get involved in. The state has been starting a marketing campaign. The DCC puts out, to buy California, buy safe, quality, green grown, like make sure you're buying product that isn't, but it's a reality, and it's something that does deserve the attention of our county, all the regional partners in this area, the state of California, federal government at one time. When that place comes to point out, this is real good, safe product. This is what you should be purchasing. This is being, just like other products that you better buy sometimes, like I know Tom's soap and other companies that create products where it's like, this is made with labor safe, protocols. This is made, by people who are abiding by the laws and the rules. I mean, that's a sales point, and it's something that is important. And until that's really embraced, and then the whole community wraps around it, I know there's a lot of naysayers still in this county, and they're never going to change their way they look at cannabis, because they view that exactly what was just said by Supervisor McGorty. I mean, sorry, Mom, that there's all these crimes against the environment, people. There's even human trafficking being involved in some of this, and it's atrocious. It needs to end, and we don't have the resources, and law enforcement can't just do it on their own. It's going to take a whole community effort of embracing the good and promoting the positive and helping that move forward for success. Thank you for pointing that out. I look forward to seeing that report.
Okay, thank you.
Question for Steve. First of all, I'm very supportive of any marketing efforts you want to make. Certainly, we've seen that in the wine industry, of which I'm really familiar with, where over the years we grew organic and biodynamic and sustainable as brands, and I'm hoping that we can do the same thing to raise consumer awareness, because I think a lot of people would be really shocked if they knew how illegal cannabis is produced, and just knowing how sensitive they are about the things that they eat. Boy, they sure wouldn't want to have anything to do with what's going on with production practices in the legal cannabis market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of those pesticides that are being used are extremely harmful and damaging, and it's not good for the whole health, the health of our community and afar. So yes, I agree. I mean, there are some boundaries and difficulties with the organic being, a federal designation and their certifications that people get and such. But just the fact, like I said, that there's such strict regulations that we do have pesticide testing. I mean, I get emails constantly being sent out from the DCC and such of products that they're popping for having chemicals and harmful substances. I think CNN actually even just put an article out yesterday about it nationwide, how it's an issue, that it's hurting people that are elderly, that are using this as medicine. I mean, this is medicine. And if people are feeling, using these products as medicine, they need to understand they need to be purchasing it from people who are producing it in the fashion of medicine.
Okay, thank you. And I think that MCA could benefit, we're talking about marketing and everything, with contacting our Economic Development Division. And Anna Mackin and Gwen Malala would certainly be helpful in trying to collaborate on how to lift things up some. And I think that for our next meeting too, we should put on the agenda for to deal with the tax situation, that we've had a 50% reduction, that's going away at the end of this year. So we need to figure out if renewal of that, how we can support this legal market. So I'd like to see that discussion come back at the next meeting. Okay. All right. Any public expression online?
Seeing none.
Okay, very good. All right, so we will take a break right now for 5 minutes. Do a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll deal with item 2C. Very good.
What I think parents should know about home visiting is that you can learn a lot of new things and tips and tricks, how to take care of the baby and what to do, and if you're, stuck in a routine and everything being monotonous, like they give you new resources and new tools how to handle parenthood.
It was nice to have them kind of guiding me, even though I was not a first-time mom. I felt like a first-time mom.
It totally blew my mind over time. So much information that I had no idea about. She was straightforward when, teaching me this stuff and answered any of my questions. Just a really positive experience.
What I think that parents could benefit with the program is just having someone here for you, especially for first-time parents. It can be very isolating and it can be very lonely, and having the home visitor changes that, and it feels very good.
For me, having a home visitor is like having a second mom there.
A lot has changed. I'm definitely more knowledgeable taking care of her. And I know that anytime I need advice or help from somebody, I can just call her.
It's just that little positive nudge to, hey, I'm noticing something, let's find a way how to change it. And she's like, you know what, Amanda, let's pick you up, dust you off, and let's go over to, see about either getting your driver's license or seeing about, going to college, see if we can start something for you.
It's totally worth it. Like, even if you're on the fence at first, you don't feel like having a stranger coming in your house and teaching you about your little one, do it anyway. You get the help that you need. You get professional advice on things you may not know about your child. And the fact that the program has no fees or anything, it's all totally free, is fantastic.
Yo creo que si conozco a alguien que está próxima a ser mamá, lo primero que haría sería recomendarle el programa porque te entrega mucho apoyo, mucha información y más que nada como apoyo emocional, una guía, te da una visión diferente de cómo es ser papá aquí, quizás en este país.
Y así pues es algo, un bonito programa, porque pues es buena persona la señora y los ha atendido muy bien.
Pensé que nada más iba a ser un programa de orientación quizás para los nuevos padres, pero creo que nos llevamos una linda sorpresa porque Gaby es una persona muy cercana a nosotros, es como parte de nuestra familia, siempre ha estado dispuesta a ayudarnos y a escucharnos con nuestras dudas sobre la paternidad y en nuestro caso que estamos solos en este país ha sido como de mucha ayuda.
Es un gran apoyo para nuevos padres y más aún si están en nuestra situación, que somos extranjeros, que nuestra familia y amigos, como dice Carla, están en otro país, lejos. Entonces sí, viene muy bien el programa para apoyarse tanto emocional y como anímicamente y bueno, en varios aspectos del programa que nos ayuda a seguir adelante con esta nueva aventura.
Te ayuda como a ver los distintos recursos que tiene la comunidad para nuevos papás, entonces creo que es de gran ayuda.
No queda mucho que agregar, pero lo veo de la misma forma.
Que hemos aprendido algunas cosas aquí y pues los han ayudado, como este programa los ha ayudado para seguir creciendo a la bebé, como con buenos consejos y así.
Sí, y creo que también ha sido muy importante el tema de apoyarnos con el libro y saber qué actividades hacer con Máximo de acuerdo a su edad, cómo estimularlo, cómo cuidarlo de los peligros de la casa, como cosas que uno como papá nuevo no conoce, claro.
Pues a mí me gustaría que lo siguiéramos visitando aquí en la biblioteca de Covelo. Está tranquilo y muy bonito aquí.
Cuando no nos podemos reunir, nos comunicamos por Zoom o una llamada telefónica o por texto.
Donde nos visite, porque ha sido nuestra casa, a veces nosotros vamos a Willits y puede ser en el parque. Gaby llega, hacemos un resumen de cómo ha ido nuestra semana o qué hemos hecho de nuevo, cómo va el trabajo. Luego hacemos las actividades del libro. Vemos si podemos hacer un juguetito nuevo para Máximo, a veces ella lo evalúa, cómo está su sentido motriz, qué ha aprendido de nuevo, nuevas palabras y jugamos un ratito y conversamos.
A mí personalmente también me ayudó mucho a obtener mi licencia a conducir, que era un objetivo que teníamos en cuanto a la familia, sí, para poder estar tranquilos, así que encuentro que ha sido fundamental el apoyo.
El objetivo del programa es que las familias estén bien y que las familias estén bien significa niños felices, niños sanos y eso en un futuro es adultos sanos y un mundo mejor. Entonces está bueno.
We're going to go to item 2C, which is discussion and possible action, including consideration of potential revisions to Mendocino County Code, Chapter 8.77, titled Hazardous Vegetation, Combustible Material, Rubbish, and Weeds, Abatement of Hazardous Vegetation and Combustible Material Nuisance Ordinance, and evaluating potential funding sources for implementation. So, I'm going to just a couple updates is when I had a discussion with Senator McGuire's office, they said that their policy team is working with CAL FIRE to see what potential options there are to address this issue. Okay, so I need to reconnect with them and see if there's any updates on that. And when I talked with CSAC, Catherine Freeman at CSAC said that she would bring this to their Wildlife Advisory Committee that CSAC sits on with the Office of the State Fire Marshal. And so hopefully at that level we'll get some kind of movement going, because some of these issues are beyond us. But what's not beyond us is what Schwinn Malala is doing as far as the grant repurposing of that. So Schwinn might have an update. I'd like you to keep it to under, this is the hour and 15-minute agenda item, so please keep it under that amount of time, please. Thank you.
I'll try to keep it under an hour.
Okay.
So Swin Malala Executive Office, a very quick update. Our grants division has met with the County Council's Office and Code Enforcement earlier this month, and we're able to finalize a scope for the project moving forward. We are still working with HCD on getting this project scope approved, so it's not a final awarded scope, but we do have some ideas of moving forward. So this will be a 3-year project, more of a feasibility study from 2024 to 2027. The first part will be bringing on a consultant and researching approaches taken by other communities, how they are encouraging or enforcing hazardous fuel abatement. We will also do an analysis of specific issues related to brook trails regarding vacant land and absentee or non-responsive landowners, if there are other comparable situations that exist. We will also examine the specific ordinance language that are used in other communities. This will give us ideas on approach, costs, pros and cons of the different various models and the differences in structure between the Mendocino County and other agencies. The second part is more of an action summary and a work plan. So based on the information generated by our previous research analysis, we could develop and recommend a more long-term approach that are feasible, that will work for Mendocino County fuel abatement program. Lastly, if necessary, we will be working to develop or update our ordinance language, and at the same time forecast like a more long-term resource allocation that we would need to implement or adopt this new revised ordinance. I am open for any questions.
Okay, there's certainly a lot there. One thing is that the FEMA BRIC grant that we've applied for, and you know, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this work, is to make sure that if we do get that grant, that we can work on some of these properties that have been non-responsive, you know, have vegetation problems. So is there any update on that? And what's the timeline look like? If we got that BRIC grant, then would we be able to do this kind of work in time to make that happen?
I believe so. This project would be around, it's a 3-year feasibility study. The BRIC grant, it hasn't been awarded yet. We only heard from Cal OES and their consultant that it's very, very close in the process of being awarded. That project, I believe, is 6 years, and there will be phases. So let's say you enroll properties, they will go through phase 1, they get submitted to FEMA for approval, there will be another phase, so they wouldn't be missing out.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. Supervisor McGordy?
You know, I think this is extremely important, and it comes up over and over again about fire safety, which has implications for insurance and other practices. And a couple things I wanted to bring up in discussion. First of all, is that the shaded fuel break in Ukiah has been successful, but I understand that it needs to be burned again at some point, and that there may be some reluctance by some landowners to do that. Have you heard much about that?
I have not, and I would like to. I don't know if Deputy CEO Donnie Cliff have heard anything recently. I know last time I spoke with Fire Safe Council Scott Craddy, he is looking at doing another program in the West Hills.
I guess there are some issues with fences being burned up, and having to replace them is expensive, obviously. So you know, that's something that we have to think about when we're applying for grants, is being able to repair things that do get burned up, because wooden posts are pretty common in fence lines, and they do burn off. I've seen it happen. That's one of the things that we want to be sure as we do these practices, understand that they have to continue. So we're looking at about a 5-year window where burn is necessary. When I talk with my friends who are involved with the burn association that we have here. The other thing that came out of our biofuel conference or symposium that we had at Hoffman Research and Extension Center is that we think of a lot of potential fuels coming from, forest management systems, but it was pointed out by one of the speakers from the state, from the California Department of Conservation, that even urban areas produce a lot of biowaste that need management. And right now we probably are sending it to landfills that could also one day be used as biofuels too. So I just kind of bring that up because virtually every community in Mendocino County has a need to do something with this material, which could be substantially large, and we tend to chip in place, but there may be other purposes for it in the future. And certainly the waste stream, and a green waste stream, could be diverted to the biofuel production or other uses like that. So I'm thinking a little bit ahead of time, but because your group is also working really closely with us in this concept of potential biofuel production, I just wanted to point it out to you while you're here.
Thank you. All right, any other comments for that? All right, any public comment?
Seeing none online.
All right, I don't know if we need a motion on this.
Just a motion to accept the report.
I'll second that.
Supervisor Hashak?
Yes.
Supervisor McGorty?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, so we are at approval, item 3A, approval of minutes of April 24th, 2024, regular meeting.
Make a motion to accept and approve the minutes of 4/24/24.
You like saying that, didn't you? Okay, so I'll second that. Any public comment?
Seeing none online.
Okay, none in the room. So,
Supervisor Hashak?
yes.
Supervisor McGorty?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, and we'll go to announcements, item 3C, announcements. All right, and it's 10:26. We'll adjourn the meeting. Okay, thank you, everybody.